before. All right, so I'm not going to keep everyone because everyone's time is precious, and super excited about this call. I've been waiting for this call since we heard the wonderful news of Miss Lexi hitting Zaya Executive. So Lexi is our team's newest Zaya Executive, and those of you that are newer or or maybe just kind of diving back into your business, or maybe don't really understand how the ranks work. Zaya Executive is a rank that within the company, less than 1% of reps have been able to achieve that rank. So it's a huge accomplishment, and super, super proud of Lexi and her entire team. This was a huge team effort. And it's just so cool that she was able to do this. And so I wanted her to jump on and kind of share her journey as far as where she ended to September and how they were able to, as a team, work towards this goal. So I'm going to kind of do a question and answer type back and forth with Lexi right now. And Robin and Savannah played a huge part in Lexi's team advancement to Zaya Executive. So they may be interjecting or adding some comments too. But if you guys have any questions, chat them in the chat or unmute. And we'd be happy to kind of answer what we can. This is going to be just open. And so don't be scared. Don't be hesitant. Now, if you are newer, I do want to start out by saying, if some of this may be confusing, or you may not kind of understand the numbers, or when we talk reports or stuff like that, talk to your upline, and that will be stuff that we'll continue to train on, and we'll have additional training that we're going to do in the future on some of these things. So I don't want some of this to scare some of you that may be newer. So I just wanted to say, to start that out with. So just so you guys know, to hit a Zaya Executive rank, you have to have 4 directors on your team. Your 4 directors, which are level 1 to you. So 4 people that you have personally sponsored have to be at a director rank and have to be hitting that rank within the same month that you are going for Zaya Executive. Your group volume has to be at 100,000. So between yourself and your entire downline, so your level ones and anyone they've sponsored, and anyone they've sponsored, and anyone they've sponsored, so your entire team has to be at 100,000. So I wanted to make sure that everyone kind of understood what that rank was. Zaya Executive rank is also when the company gifts you with a leadership trip. And so Lexi has won a trip to Hawaii for 2 people, fully paid, which is so amazing. So I'm so excited for her about that. So that is just one of the perks that comes along with being a Zaya Executive. And just to put this into perspective, less than 1% of the entire company has done this. We have 94,000 reps that are now part of this company, US and Canada combined, soon to be Australia as well. And those 94,000 people, now some of those may not be active or may not be building a team, but out of that 94,000, less than 1% have hit this rank. So with that being said, I'm going to get started on asking her. So Lexi, I kind of want you to start out with just by telling everyone how you ended September and where you were at in September as far as group volume, how many directors were on your team that ranked director in September, and then also where your rank was hitting at the end of September.
Okay, so at the end of September, that was actually the first month in probably 5 or 6 months that I had come close to hitting executive again as far as volume. But we ended up at just short of 45,000 in September for team volume. So not even half of what we needed for Zaya Exec. And I had not been a paid exec for probably 5 or 6 months, and I hadn't had a director probably for about that time. Might have had one sprinkled in there a month or 2, but not since probably March or so. So nothing really on the exec level for 5 or 6 months, and I think we all kind of went through that in the summer too. So it's not really that I was trending whatsoever as far as directors or volume for the last couple of months.
Okay, so at the end of September, you hit execs. You had 2 directors that did hit in September.
No
No?
directors in September, and then we didn't quite hit 45,000 in volume. So I was not a paid exec. I didn't have any paid directors.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a huge thing. So I wanted to make sure we started out with that because, again, like I just said, to hit a Zaya executive rank, your group volume needs to be at 100,000. So she ended September at 45,000 and then ended October at over 100,000, and had 0 directors that were hitting director rank the month of September. At the end of October, she had 4 directors that were hitting director rank. So that's a huge thing that I wanted to point out to start this call with, just to show you basically was able to double her team within that month from September to October. Okay, so Lexi, how did you decide that? I feel like a host. Lexi, how did you decide that you were going to go for Zaya Executive after ending September, knowing you had no directors that were hitting? You were short over half of what you need for group volume. What was the decision that you were going to go for it?
I actually had my mind set on January. Something magical always happens in January. It's happened for Sav and I simultaneously a couple of times. There's something great about January. But I was like, you know what? For some reason, I tend to have November and December on the back burner. We always talk about that little lull with the holidays. It kind of slows down for parties. So I probably not great for me to assume November and December were out, but I just decided if I'm going to try to go for it during this period, because November is the last month, I'm going to try in October. And if it doesn't have it happen in October, then I'll push again in January. That was just for some reason in my mind. I just knew from past years that personally things slowed down a little bit during the holidays. So I just told myself that I'm going to try one more time before that kind of Hawaii incentive period ended. It definitely was not because I felt that I was right on the brink of the volume or I had certain people right on the brink of directorhood. That was definitely not the case. But that said, I did know, and I have told Sav this for months, I did know that I had at least 4, actually more like 5 or 6 girls that were fully capable of hitting director at a month's notice. I mean, literally, I just had in my head for 5 to 6 months that we had so many girls with so much potential if they put pen to paper and paper to action that they could do it the next month. I mean, for months on end. And so I knew I had girls that could do it. So I think it was more of a belief thing and what's the worst that happens. Best case scenario is we do it. Worst case is still case, and that's a lot of people grow their business. Or I have 1 or 2 new directors, which would be awesome.
Awesome. Okay, so once, I'm just taking this step by step. So I have a whole list of questions here, step by step. So once you hit.
I did get one question too. I got this a couple of times before the call for some people that are gunning for it as far as numbers. We started October with 98 reps on my team and we ended with 113. Some people are asking how many are on my team. And 67 of those reps had at least $1 of volume. So it was like 59 to 60% of my team sold that month.
Awesome. Okay, so once you decided you're going for Zaya Exec, you're going to give this a true shot. How did you decide what your next step was? Like, what were your next steps in communicating that to your team, to your sponsor, to your upline? What did you do after you're like, okay, I'm going for this? Sorry.
Well, I sent an SOS message to Sav, I think, like I do with anything in Zaya and in life, really. And then Sav, what did she do? She instantly sent me a mathematical equation like she does with everything Zaya and with life probably as well. But but I was prepared for that because I have really come to buy into the value of that party efficiency number. And I'm not a numbers person. I will tell you that every single day. Because otherwise, what do you have? A prayer, a hope, a wish. Those are things that we resorted to in the final 24 to 48 hours. But so that was the first thing I did, was tell Sav. The
So
second
Sav,
thing,
so
go.
really
Yeah.
quick, Sav, can you explain to everyone then what you sent her to show her that it was possible?
Yeah, so earlier in the year, she had gotten up there in PV before things kind of slowed down too. So we knew like it was still a jump. Like I think the highest you've gotten is like what, 75, 80, and that was like back in March. So, we looked at that and knew, okay, you have trended there before. What were your parties at? What did you average? But overall, we looked at what her team brought in group volume the month before and how many parties they closed. We will be doing some more. I've done some calls before. I have a recording I can send you, but essentially we wanted to know how many parties she closed and what her group volume was. So we could divide that group volume by the number of parties to kind of say, okay, one party on your team brings in, and yours is pretty high, Lex, but I'm just going to say 600. So if one party brings in $600 on average, you can take your full group volume of 100,000 and divide it by that to know how many parties you want to try and plan on your team. Okay, so like a smaller number, director, you need 10,000 in volume, divide it by how much one party brings in, you might need 18 parties on your team. So now you can go plan ahead and get those booked out with yourself and with your team. And I do want to say one thing. Lexi led from the top with this. She made up, of course, it's going to be a number. I'm going to give you a number, 10% of the volume on her team to hit 100,000. So she did not just have her team, do the work. She did the freaking work, and she did a ton of parties and sales herself. So, I think that's super important to know when you're hitting those goals. It's not about just your team booking parties. It's getting a lot yourself too.
So really quick, Sav, because we have a question, can you just explain what party efficiency is really quick, like just like a slowed down?
Yeah. Yep. So pretty much it's kind of trying to estimate the efficiency of one party. So if you have a team and they're all selling, at the end of the month, you have a certain group volume you have, okay? So you have 10,000 in group volume at the end of a month. There's a way in the back office in your downline reports to also see how many parties your team did in that month. So if you're taking your full volume at the end of the month and you're dividing it by the number of parties your team closed in that month, you can see how much one party sells, the sales in one party. So if you know the sales in one party, you can see how many parties you need to reach a certain volume or goal in the future. Okay, I do have I can send it to Megan, or I think I have before. We can probably post it again, but it's just a little calculation. Group volume divided by total parties on your team gives you a number. And then you want to take that and estimate how many of that amount of party you need to get to a certain group volume.
Awesome. Thanks. Now, those of you that did not get on Sav's Dash to Director call, she went over some of this. Go or listen to that recording. It's posted. It's the last call we just had with Dash to Director. That little calculation is there on our Dash to Director page. So if you can't find it, reach out to your sponsor or myself, and we'll direct you to that calculation. It's all laid out for you. Okay, so then once you knew approximately about how many parties you were going to need to have, you also knew, Lexi, that you had to have 4 directors. So how did you communicate with your team to tell them? You mentioned that, which I think is such a key thing. It's sometimes, the girls have it in them, they can do it. And you knew that about them. How did you get them believing that they could do it and get them to be on board with, yes, I'm going for director?
Yeah, so we did a booking blitz first after I got that party efficiency, did an incentive, and I'd be happy to share what I did and how I did it and how I did tiers, and kind of hyped my team up and had them counting along with each other and cheering each other on. After we got that underway, the last week of September. So that was the week leading up to October, because we knew, okay, to tackle volume, you need parties. So let's get that going. And then we switched over to director. And I tried scrolling up to our Facebook Messenger, Sav, from the end of September, and I just couldn't do it. I just cramped up. I couldn't. I was like, I wonder what I said to her when I wanted to start planning to do this, and I couldn't even do it. So a lot of this is by memory because we had thousands of messages.
I think it was graphic, your numbers graphic, because we had done something similar earlier in the year, and you kind of broke down your numbers for your incentive for your booking blitz.
Yes. So I have a graphic I'd be happy to share with anyone. So directors, it was sort of a 3-step approach probably, where for the most part, it was them committing to running and their decision. At first, if we had someone that didn't buy into it, that we knew we could do it, that could do it, we were going to have that conversation with them. Fortunately, we had enough people jump on board in the beginning. Because at the end of the day, if they didn't buy into the belief that they could do it, then it probably wasn't going to work, no matter how blue in the face that I could get trying to convince them of their ability. So kind of a 3-step process. The first thing I did was I threw out an incentive. After I got the booking blitz started, I decided that I wanted to do kind of a mini dash to director, not with a bunch of trainings, but I just wanted to do a mini dash to director for my first level. So I sent a chat to my first level girls. Facebook Messenger is what we use. And I just said, hey, heart this message if you're interested in hearing about the special promo that I'm doing for just you first level girls only. It could mean a minimum of X dollars bonus, not a drawing. You would get it if you hit director, maybe more if we cheer each other on and hit a certain goal. I didn't expand on it. I didn't want to terrify anyone. I just said, heart this message if you're interested. Whoever did, I sent them an email that night and I explained it. It was basically the same thing. Laid out what that bonus would be, what the additional bonus would be if we became a Zaya exec team. So I didn't straight, hard and fast say that I'm going for Zaya exec, but I did share my goals. Sharing my goals and my spotlight's kind of a weakness of mine. I did have it in there, but I told them there was a bonus for hitting director. And as an aside, the funny thing is, I'm pretty sure that every single one of my girls who hit director this Monday when I Venmo'd all of them, I'm pretty sure every single one of them replied and said, oh my gosh, I forgot about this. Thank you. So they were so running for a million different reasons and not that incentive. So that was probably the first step. And when they replied to that email and said, I'm in, because we did a call to action, we said, tell us if you're in, if you want to go for this. And so if they replied, they got put into a sub chat, a sub Facebook Messenger chat, just one of many, many sub chats throughout the month. So we started that. I added the rank advancement charts. I kind of started with those items. I shared my tracker after I protested Sav. She's like, share your tracker and show them what you need. And I remember one of my 4 directors that hit last month in that moment, she said, so does that mean that you have to have 4 directors hit all in the same month? And I just said, yep. And I think that's what kind of got her gears going a little bit and maybe what brought attention to it. But so we got some interaction in that first chat, but then we knew we had to hone in even more because there was a lot of people in that group, a wide variety, and we knew we needed to hone in even more and really break it down to people who are going for it. So then we brought in the big guns. We brought in Robin after the first week of the month, and one of the very first things she said, Sav's like, Lexi's going for this, here's what we've done, here's the status. And one of the first things Robin said was, have you flat out shared your goal with your team? Have you told them? And we were like, not totally, somewhat, here and there. Some people know, some people don't. And she's like, okay, we need to look at this like a business. We need to share your goal and we need to see who wants to do this with you. When can all those people get on a call? So we had a Saturday morning chat. It was on the 9th. So we were a full plus week into the month already. But we had a chat, we recorded it for a couple that had, you know, ball games going on, and Robin and Sav kind of laid out the big picture goal, shared what the month could look like, and they left it with call to action of messaging me afterwards, think on it for a day or two, whether you were in or not, kind of by the end of that weekend. And then step 3, we had our running for director sub chat. And that's what led us to that group of girls that were running. So we had them in a separate chat starting on the 11th of October through the end of the month. So obviously the sooner the better. We just didn't know what that approach would look like until we kept taking those steps. So we had a plan to begin with, but that plan changed every day, by the hour, by the day. It was just constantly being changed.
Awesome. I love it. Okay, so once you had all 4 of them on board and they decided, yes, we're going for director, how did you outline the rest of them? So this was already October 11th. And so how did you outline the rest of the month for them as far as kind of what needed to happen? And then how did you continue to communicate with them throughout the month so that everyone knew where you were at?
So when we had that running group, that's what we called it, running. These are the girls that are running. And we had more than 4 in there, but that's where the chatter happened. I mean, that's where the chatter, the ideas, the struggles, and probably the last 2 solid weeks of the month, maybe a little less, we broke it out into team sub chats with those running teams so that we could help them address any specific team struggles or areas they needed lifted up. Did they need more parties? Did one of my directors seriously didn't have a team yet with 11 days left in the month, and she was looking like one of the contenders. So numbers were looking great, but she had no team. And you need, you know, for those of you who are newer, you need a team with $2,000 in volume. So probably the last 10 solid days, we shared everyone's stats in that running chat. I mean, I had an Excel sheet that broke it down by current team volume left to achieve the goal, volume needed per day as a team, volume needed per day per rep in case that sparked their interest, leggings to sell per day in case that put it into perspective for them. I mean, broke it down in a lot of ways, and I updated it every single day. So I sent it to the running group right away. I said, here's where we're at, because they'd go, oh my gosh, like, look, Jenna is such and such far away. Look at that jump. They'd cheer each other on. And then I'd go to this team chats and share, here's where your team volume's at. Here's what Courtney and Megan need to get before the end of the month. And here's what your whole team needs to get.
And you did this
every day.
Sorry, Lexi, how often did you send this to them?
So probably the last 10 days, every morning. It was right away in the morning. And then when we got to the last couple of days, there were times where, you know, I couldn't contain myself, or Sav would jump in and be like, Heidi's at this, so-and-so's at this. And then we'd just provide extra updates. But it was always every morning.
Every morning. So your 4 directors, you shared it all together and then shared it to their separate teams. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, we actually shared it with the whole running group. Those were that run director. So it was completely transparent. It was everyone's numbers in that group. And one of my directors who started out going for senior director, going for executive, we even shared her potential director's numbers because she started the month going for executive. So we shared all of their numbers completely with each other. So they were watching and waiting for that morning update to see how everyone else was doing as well.
And do you think that played, I see your girls, Jenna and Amanda, which I love seeing them over here chatting on the side, that Jenna saying that was 100% the best thing you could have ever done. Amanda agreed, literally loved seeing everyone where everyone is at and where everyone needed to be. So obviously that was a huge motivation to them and a huge push to them to see where each other was at.
Yes, I definitely think so. And there was times where those who hit director and those who didn't quite make it at the end of the month, they were neck and neck. So it was just so cool. And I hope and think that those girls too, who didn't quite hit the mark last month saw it and they went, we were right there. We were right there. And they can probably look and see the differences in the month and maybe what one did, what the other didn't do, the team differences, what have you. But I think it was so cool. And like you can see, we call them the Amandas, the poor things, Amanda Carlson, Amanda Chapman. Our Amandas, they were played a huge role in it too. And they were two in the running group that they didn't quite hit it, but oh my gosh, they worked their butts off and their teams grew or their teams, were amped up because of it or did things they hadn't done before. And they had volume they hadn't done before. They were doing vendor events. I mean, it was awesome across the board.
Awesome. I love it.
Can I have one thing quick? And along with that chat, like towards the end, there's a few days where it wasn't right in the morning. Like Aubrey was like, where are the reports? Like they were so invested and they wanted to see, where are we at? Towards the end, the last day, everyone was counting orders together. Like, okay, I got another 100. This happened. I have this coming in. And two of the Amandas that didn't make it, one of them even said, like, this is how much they were doing this for Lexi and the team. She's like, I would just hate it if you needed me as that last director. Like it wasn't even for herself, so it was cool to see that they were doing it for her and that they were running for her, whether they hit it or not. That wasn't their main motivation. And it wasn't Lexi's either. She was so happy with just any directors on our team hitting.
Awesome. I love it. So I think people would like to see that spreadsheet without the numbers, Sav, like just like what you sent out to the team, like how you broke it down, like leggings, whatever, like Lexi just.
Yep. Lexi did that part.
Okay.
And then also on top of that, I did one, probably the last 10 days to your whole team chat. Like her whole team was in there. I can't believe nobody left. And every day I said, hey guys, this is where we're at. This is how much you need per day per rep. And then we doubled it because she has a team of 100, but like we said, 60 were selling. So we didn't want to say every rep on this team needs $50. So we started saying every rep on this team needs 100 or 104, or hey, it's down to 90. So that kind of kept him going too, like, oh, we're on track or we're a little behind. So I think that's key to do that every day towards the end.
Yeah. Awesome. I love it. So even what I kind of want to point out really quick before we keep going, I have a couple more questions for you, Lexi, is it doesn't matter if you're going for executive, executive, if you're going for director, you can do all of these things on a smaller scale for your teams. In order, if you're pushing for director, work some of these steps into your goal at the beginning of the month. Okay. Let's see. Okay. What extra things did you do, Lexi? You mentioned the booking blitz to prepare to book all the parties. You guys had your mega party. And then what other extra things did you and your team do in order to enhance things?
So we ended up doing a mega party and we decided it was already into October. So I was kind of keeping it on the back burner. Those things are a lot of work. And then we were like 4 days in, whenever we looped Robin and she's like, so you're doing the mega and so you're doing that appreciation event, right? I'm like, oh, we should do that. Right. So it was just going to be my team to begin with. And then Sav had planned to do one for the whole Zaya tribe, her downline, in the fourth quarter. And she was like, well, this is silly. Let's just all do it, because then my team would have done one this month. And then if we did another one next month. So it turned out to be all of Sav's team. We did a huge mega party. And she delegates and has her directors or her leaders kind of loop their teams in. And so when I looped my team in, I was like, well, we have these girls who are specifically running in that running chat. This would give them more exposure. This would give them more exposure to potential teammates, to their teams, seeing them being involved. So I tasked a lot of them with helping in the mega party as well. And that created more chatter in the running group, is what we called it. So that helped as well. And of course it was hopefully going to help with volume as well. Just, we would have hated to look back and gone, oh my gosh, we missed it by this volume and we didn't do mega. So we were putting that all on the table. We did trackers at the end, and not just providing them updates on their numbers, but Sav started breaking it down of, okay, it seems like we have about this many people pushing in your total team. And she made these little graphics with dots on them. And she's like, you guys, for every tracker, I mean, it was another incentive thrown out. For every tracker filled in, you're going to get, Sav threw out an incentive. So we broke it down even more, and I'm not the one to talk about those trackers all of a sudden. And I think I woke up one morning and Sav had sent out trackers to everyone and to team. So there's like a whole downline tracker, and then there was also individual team trackers because we knew how much they had to sell per day for the rest of the month. And those things are not my jam. So those are things that I would not have, I would not have done. And if I did, it would have been because I went to Sav and Robin had talked about the numbers to do it. So something like this, I just don't, you can't do it alone. Not even just because of your team. You have to have your team, but I needed my uplines. I needed Sav, and then the things that we thought someone might be sick of our voices. We were like, Robin, we need you to come in. We need you to say this. And she was there. I mean, so much. I think I kicked her out of my entire downline team chat the day after we hit Zaya exec, because I was like, okay, I need to get Robin out of here because her phone she just has to be ready to throw her phone on the road. And she messaged me separately. She's like, let me back in. I need to talk to your girls. It was just constant. And now I feel like I don't know what's going on in Robin's life because she was in my phone probably every other hour all month long.
Awesome. I love it. Okay, so we're in the month, we're doing our things. We did the mega, we did the booking blitz, everybody has parties. The 4 directors know where they're at daily. Talk about, because this is unbelievable, talk about all the roadblocks that came your way and how you continue to push and motivate your team through all of those.
Well, Facebook broke for the first time in history, I think, early in the month. So Facebook and Instagram broke. That didn't seem like a great sign. It seemed, and then all month after that, it seemed like something was off. I mean, some parties seem normal. Sometimes your VIP posts seem normal, but you guys probably experienced this. Sometimes it felt like we were reaching no one. So the algorithms were off, or Facebook was not telling anyone anything that was going on. So we were resorting to personal messaging, tagging people in VIP posts. I mean, that's something I hadn't even done before. And I think the last week, I was just expecting so many people to leave my VIP group. And I think my girl too, because we're like, I'm messaging everyone, I'm tagging everyone. And it pushed so many people outside of their comfort zones. And now they're going to start doing some of those things because they saw a result because of it. Roadblocks, no restocks the last week of the month at all. I don't think. Were there any? We were all sitting there in my first level going, what do we do? Sav and I, and I mean, almost every human on our side of the family got COVID, and not just we have the sniffles COVID. I mean, deathbed COVID. we could barely lift our phones to respond to people, and it just, you can laugh now, otherwise you'll just cry about it. But it was awful, and I thought, this is it. This is what's going to be the nail in the coffin of Zaya exec. And that was, a roadblock for us. It was a struggle because we were constantly communicating every day, every single day, with Robin, with the teams, with the sub chats. And that was a whole at least week of being really down and out to where we even took off work.
Crazy and amazing. Okay, so after so I guess I just have one more question that I was going to ask, and then we can kind of open it up for questions too. What did you do, other than was there anything else beside, I don't know what else you could have done because you basically did so many amazing things, all of it all. I guess how I want to ask this is, what do you think the main factors in the success from month to month were? Or what would you say contributed to probably the main things that you really think push this team to Zaya Exec?
I mean, I think because it's such a big, high level goal, it wasn't just mine. So once I put it out there, my teammates were pushing for goals. They started to buy into it, and their teammates started to buy into it. And so, despite moments where I definitely was like, oh my gosh, we are not trending at all. I mean, I don't think single day of the month we trended. Have numbers? I don't think we trended ever. It was the 20th of the month, and I think we were at 50,000. And so despite those times where I was just like, I just don't know if this is going to happen whatsoever, it didn't matter because I had multiple girls running for their own goal at that point. And so it was kind of the accountability thing. No matter what happened, you had to keep on pushing through because of your teammates who were going for something part of that big picture, if that makes sense.
And yeah, Lexi,
that was the big thing.
You guys had 40,000 in volume in the last week. That's how much you had in the last week. So that was the thing I was going to say. It's that belief, like, and I know you were worried about the volume. I said, nope, keep focusing on your directors. We can get the volume. Keep focusing on your directors, you know, and you guys added parties and stuff, but it really came down to that belief that you're like, okay, we can do this, you know? And maybe with Robin and I seen other big ranks before being like, no, just get those directors. Like, it really came down to that belief. You've had some directors, maybe talk about the one that was like, I don't know if I can do this towards the end. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Yeah. That belief was, and I'll talk about it. I want to talk about all of them, but Robin said something, I don't know, was it Monday or Tuesday? It was just right after the month ended. And she said something that seemed like so profound to me, which is not abnormal for Robinetti to say something where it makes you just go, you're so right. But can you imagine, you know, there were so many times where I went to you guys and I was like, this just doesn't seem like it's work. We're not trending, you know, so-and-so's not believing it. So-and-so's really doubting themselves. This person's, they're struggling with, you know, their first level volume, just so many struggles. Not a ton of success stories for a lot of the first period of the month. And if at any point, you know, and Megan, we met with you in the second week of the month, if at any point one of you would have said, yeah, you know, maybe this isn't the month, you know, and at that point I probably would have said, yeah, I mean, you're probably right. That's okay. Maybe we'll try in January. But no one ever said that. And had any one of you said, this might not be the month, maybe we just stop, I probably would have done that. I mean, I would have tried to run for my girls, but I think I would have let go big picture goal. So that's just crazy for me to think about it because it was freaking hard. It was really hard. And it wasn't, I mean, I think towards the end of the month, I don't know how we were all awake and functioning. It was the coolest thing I've ever been a part of thus far at Zaya, the most rewarding because it meant so much for so many people, more than a part of. And I haven't talked about that director yet. I didn't even talk about her, but I didn't answer. They're also unique. I could give a really high level, but I think someone could relate to at least one of the 4 directors because they're so stinking unique. I mean, Aubrey, she's one of my directors who's hit before. She's the biggest leg on my team. She's kind of my ride or die, the one who always tells me, what do I do? How can I help? When and why are we running? So I reached out to her today because I reached out to all my directors and I was like, I want to know from your mouth, you know, why'd you run? What made this work for you? What made you finally think I can actually do this? And she's like, well, you basically said we're running. Like you basically told me we're going to run. And I was like, that is absolutely accurate. So I knew she would run. I knew she could do it. And she would do it. The second one was Heidi. And I bawled when Heidi hit director. I mean, ugly, cried on my couch, bawled. And I didn't cry when I hit Zaya exec, and I was so happy for every single person hitting director, but I bawled for that girl because she's been here for 2 years on the 8th of this month, and she's going to get her director paycheck probably on the 8th or 9th of this month. And it's just so cool. I mean, she's been here the longest, and she's watched so many girls come in, rank advance higher than her, do things that she's been wanting to do. And that was just such a cool moment. So there is no time frame too long where you can't jump back in and hit a rank. And I knew that she was on board. She was planning for it. She just went live in our team Facebook group a couple hours ago, and she was like, I was doing it. She was on maternity leave with her third, starting a new job halfway through the month after that third. And she was going for it. And she has probably 9 to 10 girls on her team. Aubrey probably had about 30. Third director, Jenna, it was just her and her one first level girl who had just enrolled within the month, I think. And one of the things that she said really made it the difference for her was putting yourself out there. That's something that was synonymous with Heidi too. She said, putting yourself out there. You have to put yourself out there extra follow-ups, extra lives, being really stinking uncomfortable. Jenna said that jogger promo where, oh my goodness, I'm gonna have a bad lapse with the name, who sold 38 joggers. What's her name? That was a moment for Jenna where she was like, oh my gosh, she did that. I am going to do that. It was after the period was over for that jogger challenge, but she was like, I'm going to do that. She messaged everyone in her VIP group, and she had major sales in one night. And it was that one tiny, when she was like, that's when I realized it could be done, even though it was such huge volume to attain. So she had been here since March and just only recently had one girl. So it was her one girl. Everyone got really stinking innovative as far as, sorry, I thought I heard a child. Everyone got so innovative because some other girls were just getting started and they didn't have parties on the books. They were getting told no. And so they were helping them out with parties. I mean, they were going down and almost running parties for them. Gifting them parties of mutual acquaintances just to make this work and help them get the volume. And it was just so cool. And the fourth and final director was Sarah. She enrolled on September 1st, I think. And she said the big thing that really helped her were a few different things, but one was the booking blitz. She already realized she liked to party, and that is one thing that really set her up for success because she had 12 parties in October. And she went into October with a lifetime volume of 3,500, and she had to get to the 10,000. So she knew kind of what ranks were. You know, we go over that in our initial chat, but she didn't know just everything that played into it until I was like, I told Robin and Zab, I was like, this girl, she's a rock star. She can do it. And at the end of the day, it was her mindset that seriously set her up for success. And she didn't have a team until 10 days left in the month of October. She signed up her first girl, helped her run 2 parties that Sarah had on the books, but they were mutual acquaintances. So she's like, you're taking these parties, I'm helping you through them, let's do it. She added a second girl there that week as well, blasted them off with mystery hostess parties, just anything she could. It was just, there's such a broad spectrum of girls who've been here for a long time, been here for, you just grew a team, just been here a month. I mean, they're just so relatable, and it was amazing. I'm just seeing stuff on the chat. We threw her in there with the wolves, and she just, I think with 3 days left, she came and she's like, Lexi, I just realized what this number meant, and we broke it down a lot, but we were throwing a lot of numbers down. She's like, that is so much volume. And I don't know how many times I went, It's okay. It's okay. Don't panic. This can be done. Let's focus on your first level. Let's focus on this. And she would come to me, a few hours later, and she's like, first order, and she's so excited. I'm fine now. And it's those little things that like Jenna's great volume with the jogger challenge. It's those little things that can turn you around, but you just can't stop right before those little things happen or you won't get going again.
I love it. I love it how you had a different variety of like a girl that has been a rep for 2 years, and then a new rep who had no teammates on her team until 2 weeks before the end of the month. I mean, so as long as you believe in your mindset and you are telling yourself you can do it, it's amazing what can happen. So I love all of it. So good. Amazing job, Lexi. Seriously, so good. It was so fun to watch the entire month, all of this happen and how your team rallied together. And I love how at the beginning of the month, you just threw it out there, and those that decided we're going to go for it with you jumped on board. So I love it so much. It was so good. I'm going to open it up, you guys, or Robin or Sav, do you guys have anything to add at all?
Robin asked me to just mention the trackers and
Yeah.
how we did that. So at first we had just done it for her director team, so their teams could kind of check off and keep on track. So pretty much, I think we had like a couple weeks left. So I just found out what each director still needed in volume, and I divided it by how many days we had left. So I knew every day, for example, every day this team needed to sell $500. So I divided it by how many people were running. So if they had 500 day they needed, and there's 5 girls on the team, I put enough bubbles that every bubble was $50. They'd check it off, and when they were done, it showed their whole volume for the month, but we kept updating them daily. So the director ones were just how many bubbles does this rep need to get the whole team to the right volume at the end. And then when we got towards the end, we were like, okay, we need to bring the whole team into doing something, some sort of incentive. So I threw out some incentives for them. I said, if you fill out this tracker, you get an entry. Fill out more than one, perfect. But pretty much, again, I took what we still needed in volume, divided by how many days are left in the month. So say, okay, guys, today we're at this volume. We need 5,400 in volume to stay on track. That's $102 a rep. So again, I just did a bubble tracker that pretty much if they filled it, that was their volume for the month to contribute to the overall team. If every rep would fill their tracker up, it equaled the volume at the end of the month. So it was a way so some were, Jenna filled out 5 and it was like 1,200 guys, like the bubbles on there equaled $1,200. So do that math. But so it just depended, but you just have to calculate it. Message me anytime, let me know your numbers and I will help you calculate it. But it just was a visual for people to be like, yes, here we go. And they'd share it in the chat every time they fill the tracker out. And then we gave away some cash at the end.
So I do think the visuals and holding the team accountable and kind of knowing where everybody was at was a huge driver and push to be able to get to this group goal for sure. I love it. Okay, really quick, we had a question back. Jamie had posted a question. Will this be attainable for you and your team every month from here forward? And how do you keep them motivated? So I guess I could turn that question. How are you going to keep your team motivated here on out to continue to work towards those director goals and Zaya exec rank? Obviously, we all know that we don't know what each month is going to hold to be able to say that that's going to be sustainable every single month, because like we all know, sometimes you hit a rank one month and the next month that Facebook could go down again for 30 days. You never know what could bring your way. But what are you going to do going forward now to keep this team motivated?
Yeah, I think that was one of the first things I said in the beginning of the month. Don't stop pushing for that or reaching for that goal. Make that your next goal, just to sustain that rank. I think I shared with them that it's so interesting to me. Every time I've hit a new rank, it seems like it took so long to get there. I mean, took everything scratching to get to that rank, and then something magical happens at Zaya. As long as you keep that consistency and persistence, something magic happens where maybe you don't hit it the next month, but somehow your numbers don't completely plummet to what they were before, if that makes sense. So because of this big push, so many things happened on their teams that kind of changed the complexion of their team, change how they, I mean, you know, two of them, quite frankly, became leaders in 30 days or less, 10 days for some of them. So that's going to be a huge difference, because I think that experience alone was enough to motivate them. And now they have teammates that they feel accountable for. And I think, anyone who's a leader knows that that's motivation enough. And so I don't know if you can really say, I mean, yes, we're going to hit it next month. It seemed like it took all we possibly could to get there. But I think so many things happened because of that push that now they have more things in place to at least hit it again in the near future if they didn't hit it this month. Right. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And I think that push is important for them knowing they can, like, I remember thinking I'd be happy at director. And then you're like, okay, what's next? So now they see the big things that could happen. So I think it was important for them to see you hit that rank, to know, okay, this isn't the end. What are we going to do next?
Yep, absolutely. Awesome, you girls. Thank you so much for sharing. Who has questions? We've got like 5 minutes before 6 minutes before it's an hour. I don't want to keep everyone too much longer, but does anyone have any questions? Unmute yourself, ask away. Is there anything that anyone has a question about? Don't be shy. Yeah, it's crazy that you were at 50,000 on October 21st. That's insane.
The directors and their team get so stinking much credit, but then if you were to be in I have an entire downline chat, and it was really created because Sav wanted to have an outlet to get to my team at 1.2. It was created from the very beginning, and I just kept adding to it for these special scenarios. And if you were to be a fly on the wall in that chat, I don't even know what happened the last few days. And we were kind of counting Sunday out because it's Halloween and we're like, they're going to be out with their kids. And we were having girls going, oh my gosh, I have stinking trick-or-treating. Like we got goals to do. We got stuff to do. And it was just hilarious and amazing. And some people even coming out of the woodwork that maybe hadn't been very in tune or involved. And I think everyone amping each other up, and there's so many things that came out of the woodwork. Everyone's VIP groups, just boards everywhere, tops boards, bra boards, jogger boards. And half the time I'm sitting there going, oh my gosh, I don't want them to be throwing everything out there just for the goal, but it was so cool. And everyone was running for everyone.
That's awesome.
And this month, the last 2 days, something on my first level chat has changed. We've always had a great group, but they're just like, they haven't met each other. And most of them haven't met each other. And there's something warm and fuzzy going on in the chat. And they're all just like, oh gosh, we thought we were going to rest, but look what Zaya's doing. So
I love it.
Camaraderie for sure.
So amazing. This month is exciting. Zaya did not let us down there.
Crazy. I think on the first of the month, we were all thinking, oh, we can rest. And then that leadership thing came out. We're like, what do we do? What do we do? All these incentives. Like, no, wait, we were supposed to get a rest today. One thing I think is important too, when Lexi put Robin back into the chat and she said, thank you. You guys are awesome. This was amazing to watch, all of that. She also said, now guys, your funnels are going to be depleted. Your funnels, your customers, they all just bought from you. They all supported you. You had parties with so many of them. Now is a time where you're going to maybe feel a little dip, and it's time to fill those funnels and find new people. So I think that's really important to do after a push like this, because otherwise you do have people going, I can never hit this again. What's happening? No one's buying. So that's an important piece that I think gets missed. You got to make sure to tell them that, okay, we all go through those depleting our funnels and needing to build up more customers and reps and hostesses.
Yep, absolutely. Awesome. Anyone, I'm going to look here in the chat if we missed any questions. Does anyone have anything at all for Sav or Lexi or Robin? I think Robin doesn't have the best reception at home, so she can't have her video on right now. But does anybody have
Megan, I have a question.
Yeah, Karen.
I'm sorry. Sorry, my dogs are probably going to go crazy here in a second. My notes here, I can't read what I wrote. I wrote first level bonus, heart this message if. What was that? I missed when Lexi,
yeah. So I was letting my first level in on just a first level director incentive, but I kept it very generic in my chat. I didn't put all the details out there. I just said, heart this message if you're interested in hearing about, a promotion or incentive that I have in place for just first levels only. I didn't want to tell them what it all entailed. I didn't want them to right off the bat count themselves out. And so I got their reaction in that messenger message. And that night, whoever had reacted in the chat, I sent them an email. And I won't share my screen, but in fact, I think I even laid out some bullets. The best case scenario is this happens. The worst case scenario, and the worst case scenario looked like the best case scenario. Like you have awesome volume, you grow your team, you hit junior rep or senior rep instead of director. Nothing bad can happen from pushing for a goal. Only great things can happen, even if it's not the big end goal that you might have imagined. So that was really just a feeler. I didn't want to scare everyone right off the bat. And then that's kind of how I started weaning down to the people who were really going to run.
And I think it's so important to point out too that sometimes people just don't know the steps it takes to reach that goal. And when you guys broke it down for them, like here's what our party efficiency is, about 600. Here's how many parties you would need as a director to have. Here's how many level ones you have. Here's how many they would, as you're breaking it down step by step for them, that is so key, because sometimes when people look at it as a whole, like, oh my gosh, director looks so scary. It's 10,000 in group. I'm never going to get there. Lifetime. I'm never going to get there. But when you break it down as a team, what you're doing together collectively and how many parties throughout the month that looks like you'd have to have is such a key factor, because how, like you said in the beginning, Lexi, how else do you gauge where you need to be and what you need to plan? So I think that's so key right away to have those conversations with those people that are gunning for it and break it down for them by the party.
Yeah. And there's teeny things we did too, right after the booking blitz ended. We're like, okay, went back to the entire downline and said, okay, now does anyone have any gaps this first week of the month? Go to your later October hostesses and see if they'd be willing to take an earlier week. Sometimes people that you ask for parties will say, oh, let's do later in the month. But then when the month comes and you reach out to them to move it up, they might do that. It might not sound, maybe you hit them on a day where they wanted to really put you off. So we were pushing out little tips like that to try to pack it in the beginning and buy yourself more time to add more parties later in the month. Little things like that, just day by day.
Yeah. Awesome. Does that help, Karen?
And I'll share what I pushed out if you
thanks.
want me to. I'm happy to share that.
Yeah, I'll take whatever you've got.
All right. Does anyone else have any questions for Lexi, Sav?
I will just say that I think the leaders being involved was huge too, because I feel I have the respect of my team, but there's something to be said about having a different voice in there. And Sav is a different voice, but they hear her more than they hear other people too. So Robin being in there and we didn't have her in there always, but there was times where we just felt this will be better coming from Robin. This might be better coming from Sav. And I think it's so important, even if it's for junior rep, senior rep, ask for your sponsor or your sponsor's help. Those different things can help so much.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, I so appreciate you guys sharing. You didn't have to take the time to do this to share with everyone. And I so appreciate it. I know you were getting lots of love on the chat saying thank you so much. This was super helpful. And I know sometimes it just helps talking through like what other teams do. So I cannot thank you enough. And I am so excited for you and so happy for you. And I'm so excited that I'm going to be in Hawaii with you. So that is awesome. So congratulations. Huge congrats. Thank you all for jumping on tonight. I will post this recording. So if anyone missed it, don't worry. We're going to post it to the Connect page. But I think that's it, guys. Thanks everyone so much.
Thank you.
Hey guys.